So, hey everybody and welcome back to my D&I vlog. This is actually my first in-person D&I vlog, so I'm really excited because it's June and it's Gay Pride Month, and I'm so happy to have Phoebe McLaughin, isn't it? Yeah, Phoebe McLaughin, who's a product owner at HARK, with me to discuss being part of the LGBTQ community and working in tech. So Phoebe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. As you said, my name is Phoebe McLaughin. I'm a product owner at HARK Systems. I am American and I've lived in the UK for a long time. 18 years, I think.
Oh really? That long? I didn't realise
Yeah, so I've worked in tech since graduating uni really, and kind of worked my way from customer services to product.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of stuck because it's the best place to be in my opinion, so is tech.
Yeah, 100% I agree with that, yeah. No, that's great. So I actually got in touch with you because I came across your LinkedIn post about coming out. It's really inspirational. You had a lot of, great insight there, and I think for somebody who is in that position, or somebody even who works in tech who's in that position, it was great to see it, and I thought it was a really great post, so yeah. So obviously, diversity and inclusion is talked a lot in tech, isn't it?
Yes, thankfully.
It's talked a lot in tech, but like people have said, it can't just be words, it's got to be actions. So obviously we're both young and we both work in tech, so we're both part of the Gen Z and young millennials, so we're currently driving diversity and inclusion in tech from the bottom up, people have said. So it'll take more than a superimposing rainbow on a company's logo during Pride Month to demonstrate that we actually support the inclusivity in the industry. So Phoebe, why is a diverse and inclusive workplace so important to you?
For me, it's just about, visibility and transparency, and I feel like if you work for a company that has a really good D&I process, and if they actually seem to care, it just kind of insinuates that they'll actually care about their employees. And I'm sure that there's a lot of different reasons why companies need to ask about different ethnicities or sexual orientation or whatever, but I think walking into a room full of like a diverse mix of cultures and various other things, I personally think it makes a better business. It's more perspective and more learning.
100%. I think it comes down to as well, like, representation as well. You want to go into a business where you feel like you're represented, so whether you feel represented in a way that the CEO is a woman or she's from the BAME background or even from the LGBTQ community, you want to see that as from leadership as well, and you want to obviously be part of a diverse workforce because everyone knows diversity brings more innovation, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, Computer Weekly recently released some stats around sort of, the LGBTQ community and tech. So nearly a third of young LGBTQ plus people, 30% avoid careers in science, technology and engineering and maths because of negative stereotypes and fear of discrimination. So within your time in tech, have you ever had to combat or overcome, bias being a bisexual woman?
Yes, and thankfully it wasn't super horrible, but there have been occasions, especially as, tech is a very sort of male-dominated industry, and, I'm, as a product owner for software companies, I'm very typically the only female-identifying person in the room, full of male-identifying people, and there have been instances where, especially in like staff dues or gatherings, where I've met significant others in heterosexual relationships, and there have been comments on, oh, don't worry about her, she's a lesbian, or oh, she's fine, she's no threat, she's got a girlfriend. And at the time it was very much a case of oh, haha, yeah, very funny, but now I kind of look back and in hindsight, and I think it bothers me in kind of two respects. The first being that nobody, especially in a workplace, should be seen as a threat.
No.
Like, that's just such a ridiculous angle. But also, like, I personally am a very faithful and loyal person, and I feel like it really was offensive to my integrity. You know,
100%.
that's not me as a person. And also the fact that it's like, I'm not a lesbian. You know, okay, I might be in a relationship with a woman, I might be in love with a woman, I might be in a relationship with a man, in love with a man. Like, that doesn't change my sexuality. I'm not straight and gay or gay and straight. So, yeah, I think kind of, you know, in my early 20s I laughed it off, but I feel like, you know, now I'm in my 30s, I probably would maybe say something and kind of say, you know, it's kind of a closed-minded.
100%. It's down to microaggressions as well, isn't it? It's still
Yeah,
offensive saying stuff like that, whether you don't see it as that. I particularly come from a mixed race background, so my dad's from the Caribbean, my mum is from the UK, and you know, when you experience, you know, microaggressions where people are meant to be like saying the term half caste. I don't like it when people call me half caste because I'm not half a person.
Yeah,
I'm mixed race, so I'm a person. I understand how it feels when people do use terms that actually they're not very kind, and although they're not mean to hurt your feelings, it's still hurting your feelings. And obviously, you know, you talked about sort of in the workplace and in your LinkedIn post, you talked about coming out. How was that experience for you when you did actually come out?
I was very lucky. I have very liberal parents who are, even though they're American, they're very open-minded.
Love that.
Democrats.
Yeah.
No diss to the other guys, but like it was going to go well.
Yeah.
And you know, they were fine. I told them separately on different occasions at different ages, and you know, they were really good. And it was actually funny because my dad, who has relatively more conservative parents, ended up telling my grandma on my behalf, and she didn't really say anything. So I was like, well, that's quite nice, because I was actually quite scared to tell her.
Yeah.
Even though she's in America.
Yeah.
It's not really going to like affect my immediate life.
No.
But I think I like as a person who, you know, I could have dated, you know, men all through my childhood and then met a woman or whatever. Like the thought of like coming out is such a bizarre, ridiculous idea. Like, why do people come out as straight? Why don't they sit there? Why don't they sit there, their parents or guardians down and say, you know, Mum, Dad, I'm straight.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a thing. And it's like I don't understand why in this day and age we can't just like, you know, say, oh, you know, here's my boyfriend, here's my girlfriend. We don't have to make such a big charade about it. And I completely understand what people do and why it's such a celebration of who you are and, you know, you're loving yourself. But for me personally, I literally did it because that was the only thing to do.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now I'd probably just be like, hey, here's my same-sex significant other. So
what you're saying is
that changes.
Normalise it. Normalise coming out, or even not even use the term coming out. Just normalise just being you and just loving whoever you want to love. Anyway, no, I agree with that, 100%. So recent data has revealed that 90% of people in tech are women and 81% are men. So you know, obviously there's still a long way to go, but there's actually no figures around non-binary people, which, you know, I think is quite odd.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're living in a world where we want to be as inclusive and we want to be as diverse as possible, especially in tech. You know, we're in the modern world, we're leading innovation technically in tech, aren't we? So why is there no stats around that? I think that's a little bit crazy, and like the lack of the statistics on that's quite frustrating. And it makes it quite difficult to get a handle on what improvements are needed to be made.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Honestly, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Mainly just because, like, if I think about software platforms I've personally used, it's only really, and I'm going to, you know, go on a limb and say the last 6-12 months that I've actually been seeing, like, MX as a title, and, you know, like, male, female, non-binary as a gender. Like,
I've not actually seen that.
I've seen it maybe a couple of times.
Like, not in the doctors or anything like that, or when you're filling out forms. Or...
And I feel like when it comes to legalities, I can understand why they're not there, because there's a lot of legal reasons why, you know, your birth gender, and unless you had an actual gender reassignment, they might still consider you the gender that you were born. But for a non-binary person, you might not go through the full, well, you probably won't go through the full gender exchange, right? And I feel like that's not currently, it's very black or white. And I say this all the time to my friends and my partner, you know, things are not black and white. There's so much grey, and then there's so many variants of grey. And, you know, I look forward to the day there's a drop down the size of my arm full of, you know, all these different, you know, pronouns and genders and identities and stuff, or they're just got rid of.
Yeah, they're just, you don't have to say whether you're male or female or
unless it's like legally required.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, the government asked for it for a specific reason, or maybe it's part of the census or something. But my opinion is, if you don't need it for like your business or for legal reasons, don't ask.
No.
It's irrelevant.
No, I agree with that. So obviously, you know, you work in tech, you work for a business now, you love the culture, you feel included, you feel empowered. You know, you told me before that you're a product owner there, which is great. So, you know, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, how can organisations empower those to consider careers in tech and be a better ally to other marginalised groups within the community?
So there's different ways you can go about it. I really believe that we kind of need to start at the beginning, and the beginning is transparency and openness with parents, guardians and schools.
Yeah.
So, you know, the tech industry being more proactive on expanding kind of the breadth of what you can do in tech, right? Mm-hmm. So you can literally do anything. I mean, I ask my developers, is this possible? And they're like, literally anything is possible. It's just how much time and resources you want to do it. So I think kind of conveying that at a young age and saying, you know, like, a computer doesn't know your sexuality, doesn't know your gender. Like, it's not, it's about your skills and your mind and how you solve problems and stuff. And I feel like opening those doors as a kid would massively expand the amount of kids that go into kind of the tech and science and engineering industries. Because at the moment, I mean, I don't know about your education, but my education, like IT, was really dull.
Oh yeah.
It's really boring.
I would have never considered having a career in tech, and obviously I do marketing for tech now. If you'd have asked me, I wanted to be a lab when I was younger. I wanted to be like Cheryl Coles.
Yeah, I love that.
But I'm not here, so.
Yeah, and then I think on the flip side, kind of back to what I was saying with, you know, like HARK, we don't worry about that kind of thing. So in our platform, if a user signs up, it is just name. It's not even first name, last name.
Yeah.
Because to us, some people have, you know, they don't have a middle name, they don't have a first name, they don't have a last name. Like, some people's just like Madonna, it's just a name.
Yeah.
So for us, whatever you identify as, that's what our system will call you. And again, this isn't, we don't have to necessarily worry about like legalities, because if you look at like an audit log, it will say that user and you can trace that user to an email address or whatever. But for us, we just care about the person and not necessarily like what they identify as. And I think I loved that when I started. I thought that was such like an innovative way of thinking, especially since I've come from an ed tech background, which has a lot of regulation around it, and you know, you have to put a gender in, you have to put a title, you have to put all this stuff in, and a lot of that is safeguarding. But you know, on the flip side, I've seen where that kind of thing fails a child because they identify as one gender and they are, you know, box ticked as another. So
when it comes to sort of, you know, people who are trans, for instance, and they're going through different things in life, they still might have a legal name, but they might have a name that they identify as. So that is kind of nice to be able to put the name that you prefer to be called and that you feel you as. So yeah, no, that's a really great touch. I love that. Have you got any advice for anyone who is, you know, wanting to get into the tech industry from the LGBTQ community, or anyone who is looking just to not come out, but, you know, wanting to speak to someone about being part of the LGBTQ community? Have you got any advice for them?
My advice would be find a mentor, find somebody who knows. I'm part of 2 mentoring organizations. Let's describe it. But I know a lot of people, whether you're, you know, identify as female coming into a male-dominated industry, or whether you're, you know, a male coming into a very kind of male, you know, kind of a masculine place. And I feel like it's, you need to find somebody who's been there, and there's loads of these mentoring, volunteering organisations you can go to. LinkedIn, even just searching hashtags that relate to you. Same with like Instagram, Facebook, wherever your social media lies. But just get help. I was very blessed that, thankfully, as you know, an arguably very privileged person, I haven't had that much prejudice against me, other than kind of the odd comment here and there. And I'm sure that I've been underpaid because I'm a woman, and I'm sure that I've missed out on opportunities, but you know, I don't know about it as much, which is probably not a great thing. But I feel like if I had somebody message me and say, hey, I'm part of the LGBTQAI+ community, you know, I work in an industry that I don't like, you know, whatever, and I want to get into tech, what do I do? Like, me personally would just be like, right, let's get this journey going. And regardless of what community you're in, that uncertainty is there. You know, no matter what race, ethnicity, age. You know, older people really struggle to get into tech because they can't keep up with the constant changing of software and requirements and all this other stuff. So yeah, my advice to anyone would just be seek help and accept their help when it's offered.
100%. I mean, I'm gonna leave in the comments some groups that are on social media as well, if you are looking to speak to anyone, or you're looking for some tech groups that are part of that support the LGBTQ community. So that's great. Thank you for that, Phoebe. Well, thanks for coming on. I can't believe this is my first one that I've done in person. I was really nervous, but yeah.
Me too.
But yeah, it's great to have you on. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you are in tech and want to be involved in driving a positive change for the community, please get in touch. I'd love to have you on board because everyone's welcome to my party. So thank you very much.
Thank you.